My family ignored me for years. At Thanksgiving, I casually mentioned my $160 million fortune. My sister's jaw dropped, and my dad just stared in silence. I learned how to be invisible when I was 9 years old. That was the year my sister Sophie turned 18 and got her first car, a shiny new BMW wrapped in a big red ribbon in our driveway. I watched from my bedroom window as she shrieked and danced, hugging our parents while neighbors congratulated them. Nobody saw me standing there in my second-hand sweater. Sophie was the golden child. She was 7 years older than me. By the time I arrived, I was more accident than planned. My parents had a modestly successful insurance business in Connecticut. Sophie went to Westfield Academy, a private school that cost more per year than most people's cars. I went to Franklin Public School 3 blocks away, with ceiling tiles that leaked when it rained. When I asked why Sophie got private school and I didn't, my mother looked at me like I was asking why the sky was blue. Sophie needs more stimulation. She's gifted. You're doing just fine where you are. Fine. That word haunted me. Sophie's 17th birthday present was a trip to Paris with our parents. For mine, I got a $30 grocery store cake. While Sophie had French and violin lessons, I taught myself to code using library books. While she spent summers at expensive camps, I worked at a corner store and saved every penny. While she decided which Ivy League school to attend, I applied to University of Connecticut on a full academic scholarship. My parents took me to Applebee's to celebrate. When Sophie got into Yale with full tuition paid by our parents, they threw a garden party for 50 people with catered food and champagne. College became my escape. I double majored in computer science and math, worked 2 part-time jobs. Most holidays, I stayed away. During junior year, I started freelancing as a developer. One client mentioned their company was losing thousands due to inefficient supply chain tracking. Over Christmas break, I built a solution. They paid me $6,500, the most money I'd ever seen. But here's what mattered. They told others about it. Within 6 months, I had 10 companies requesting similar solutions. I went part-time student and focused entirely on developing better software. I slept 4 hours a night, lived off ramen, and coded until my fingers ached. The software evolved. I called it Supply Sync, a full supply chain management platform with real-time analytics. I was 21 years old, running a real tech company from my dorm room. I graduated at 22. Sophie was working at a top marketing firm in Manhattan, living in an apartment our parents helped her buy. They'd show pictures of her corner office like they'd built it themselves. I was still invisible. When I tried to explain what Supply Sync did, my father would nod and change the subject to Sophie, so I stopped trying. I was 23, home for Easter. Sophie had just gotten engaged. I'd just signed my second major contract for $300,000. Over dinner, I tried again. I have some good news. Mom looked at me. Oh, did you meet someone? No, it's work. I just signed a major client. That's wonderful, dear, Dad said without looking up. Sophie, we should have an engagement party here. Sophie squealed, and the conversation shifted. I called my business partner, Olivia. They don't care, I told her. Then stop telling them, Olivia said. You don't need their approval. Build your empire. Let the work speak for itself. That conversation changed everything. I channeled every ounce of hurt into building something undeniable. At 23, I landed my first major contract, $250,000. At 24, a national retailer signed on. At 25, I had 47 employees and $7 million in annual revenue. At 26, a VC firm offered me $18 million for 30% of the company. I negotiated them down to 20% for $12 million. I stayed quiet, lived modestly in Boston, drove a Honda Civic, and kept building. At 27, Supply Sync went international. Revenue hit $25 million. At 28, Claire Matthews, CEO of Innovix Technologies, approached me. I don't want to absorb Supply Sync. I want to expand it. You stay CEO. Your team stays intact. The negotiations took 3 months. We agreed on $280 million. I negotiated up to $310 million. After taxes and expenses, I personally walked away with $160 million. At 28 years old, I had more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, and my family had no idea. Sophie had gotten engaged to Chase, a hedge fund manager. My father suggested I apply at his insurance company because they needed someone with computer skills. The acquisition closed in October. I bought a house in Brooklyn with a view of the Charles River. $4 million, paid cash. Thanksgiving was approaching. For the first time in years, I actually wanted to go home. Not because I'd softened, but because I'd realized their opinion of me no longer mattered. When I arrived, Sophie was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Chase sat beside her in an expensive suit. Hey, Lil, Sophie murmured. Dad emerged from his office. Good to see you, Lily. Still doing computers? Yes, Dad, Sophie snorted. Dad, she's a programmer, not a doctor. The benefits are probably basic. My salary alone was $700,000 a year. Thanksgiving dinner arrived. We gathered around the table. Conversation centered on Sophie. So, Chase, Dad began. You just got promoted. Chase smiled. Yes, sir. Managing director. We're looking at houses in Westchester, Sophie said. At least 5 bedrooms. We want to start a family. Mom glowed. Oh, Sophie, that's wonderful. What's your budget? Aunt Laura asked. We're looking in the $1.5 to $2 million range, Chase said casually. And the wedding? Laura continued. Sophie laughed. We're thinking $250,000. Uncle Dan finally turned to me. So, Lily, how's work? It's going well. Still doing computer programming? Dad asked. Sophie laughed. Lily's being modest. I'm sure she's doing fine with her little apps or whatever. Little apps. Actually, I said, I've had some changes at work recently. Oh, Mom perked up. Did you get a promotion? Something like that. I sold my company, I said quietly. Your company? Dad frowned. I thought you worked for someone. No, I've owned my own company for 7 years. Supply Sync. I was the founder and CEO. Sophie's fork froze. Wait, what? I started it in college. We had operations in 8 countries. Last month, I sold it to Innovix Technologies. The silence was deafening. The sale was $310 million. After taxes and expenses, I cleared $160 million personally. I'm sorry, Laura gasped. Did you say million? Yes. That's not possible. Sophie breathed. You drive a Honda. I still have the Honda, but I also bought a Lexus, and I just purchased a house in Brooklyn. Brooklyn houses start at Chase began. Mine was $4 million, I said. Waterfront, 5 bedrooms. I paid cash. Sophie's face went white. This is a joke. I pulled out my phone and showed them my banking app. $500,000. This is what I keep liquid. The rest is invested. Laura shrieked. Oh my God, that's real. Mom grabbed the phone. How, Lily? When did this happen? I've been building Supply Sync since I was 21. 7 years. I just never mentioned it because no one asked. I looked at Sophie. You said I was doing fine with my little apps. You weren't wrong. I was fine. Better than fine. Dad had gone pale. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never wanted to know. Every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject to Sophie. Every accomplishment was ignored. I was invisible. My voice was steady. So I stopped trying to be seen by you. I built something incredible without your approval or notice. Sophie slammed her hand on the table. You let us think you were struggling. Have you felt sorry for me, Sophie? Really? I laughed. You never thought about me at all. We would have helped, Mom said, tears starting. I never needed help. While you were getting everything handed to you, private school, cars, trips, money for Yale, I was building something real. I worked 80-hour weeks. I earned every single dollar. Chase was typing on his phone. His eyes widened. She's telling the truth. The acquisition made headlines. Forbes called her one of the most successful female tech entrepreneurs under 30. Laura grabbed his phone. There are pictures. Oh my God. Is that the governor? Mom was crying. Why did you keep this from us? Did you love me when you forgot my birthday 3 years in a row? When you spent $200,000 on Sophie's education while giving me nothing? When you didn't have a stocking for me at Christmas because you forgot I was coming? That's not fair, Dad said quietly. Name one thing about my life. Name my best friend. Name anything that proves you've paid attention to me. Silence. Sophie's face was flushed. You waited until my moment and decided to steal it. Sophie, every moment has been your moment for 28 years. I'm just so tired of being invisible. You're jealous, Sophie screamed. I'm not jealous of you, Sophie. I pity you. What? Everything you have was given to you. Your education, your job. Dad called in favors. You've never had to fight for anything. You're marrying a man who makes good money and planning a comfortable life. I paused. It's not extraordinary. It's exactly what everyone expected, because that's all you've ever known, accepting things handed to you. Sophie lunged across the table. Chase pulled her back as she screamed. Dad finally spoke. Lily, I think you should leave. Yeah, I think so too. I grabbed my coat. I didn't come here to ruin anything. I came here because I realized I don't need you to see me anymore. I see myself. I know what I'm worth. I walked out. My phone blew up. Sophie screaming through voicemail. Mom crying. Dad sending stern messages. I blocked them all. My lawyer called a week later. Your family's attorney reached out. They're claiming you owe them $5 million for their investment in your education. Tell them no, and tell them if they contact me again, I'll countersue. I've kept every receipt showing exactly how much they invested in Sophie versus me. I'll make it public. I never heard from them again. Last month, Sophie sent a message saying she was pregnant. I didn't respond. I've built a life that doesn't include them. I have friends who celebrate my wins. I have colleagues who respect me. I have peace. I think about that 9-year-old girl watching her sister get a BMW, internalizing the message that she wasn't worth investing in. And I think about the woman I became, despite all of that. The money is nice. The success is gratifying. But the best part? I finally see myself clearly.